On today's episode of 5 Films from Snips Movies, I welcome Paul Griggs. Paul is a co-host on the Attack of the 50-Foot Nerds podcast, and he was really excited to select his quintet of movies.
Okay, so number one is a very important film to me for many reasons. This is Kevin Smith's Clerks. Not Clerks, I know we're British, but Clerks is a shoe shop. This is Clerks. It's Kevin Smith's black and white debut from, 1995. He spent something like $25,000 of his own money to make this movie by selling his comic collection. Man very much after my own heart. It's based on a lot of his own experience working in a convenience store. In fact, it's the very convenience store that he shot this movie in, and funnily enough, the video store next door, RST Video. It's the story of Dante, who isn't even supposed to be here today. He's woken up on his day off and told, yeah, you got to work, and it's his shift, and it's various conversations that he has with his mate Randall, and I mean this was the period where pop culture references were sort of coming into the mainstream. So while you had Mr. Orange talking about the Fantastic Four in Reservoir Dogs, you had Dante and Randall talking about the dangers of being a private contractor on the Death Star in Star Wars. Kevin Smith has gone on to be an important part of Hollywood and then come very much out onto the sort of the fringes again. He admits himself his career is basically making Kevin Smith movies. It may not be the best one. Arguments whether it's Chasing Amy or Dogma, but it's certainly where it first started. And without Kevin Smith, I wouldn't be a podcaster. I wouldn't have travelled to Jersey to see his shop. I wouldn't have that t-shirt. But these guys are very important. Jay and Silent Bob, they're in all his movies, all the View Askew-universe movies. If you've not checked it out, you couldn't do bad by this. Okay, next up, people who know me know I am a massive nerd for the sci-fi. Which is why I can't do 5 films without having the classic Metropolis, Fritz Lang's silent film classic. And people throw the word classic around a lot, but this really is one. It's nearly 100 years old. They were filming this in 1925. It came out in 1927, so nearly 100 years old. Cost a budget-busting 5 million Reichsmarks at the time. Something like 35,000 extras. This is back in the day where what you see in the picture was in the picture. It's not fakery. They weren't taking 5 people and multiplying them umpteen times by digital jiggery pokery. This was all real. Metropolis is one of those movies that still informs filmmaking today, from the look and the style and what have you. I mean, if you look at other science fiction classics like Blade Runner, very much the look of Metropolis, the city of the future, it informs what Los Angeles of the future looks like there. Or if you look at Star Wars, the robot there will look somewhat familiar if you know your C-3PO. This whole sort of Art Deco look. For me, I'd come across it first on one of those late night Channel 4 showings. But this was back in the day when a full quarter of this film was missing. Up until 10 years ago, you couldn't see as complete a version as you can now. They eventually found a rather low quality 16mm duplicate in Buenos Aires of all places, and have used that to create as complete a version as possible, which I think this one is. My copy at home though, I've got the super duper 3-disc Blu-ray, which has my go-to version, which is the one that I saw on Channel 4. It's the colour tinted pop soundtracked version produced by Giorgio Moroder. It's got music in it from people like Freddie Mercury and Pat Benatar. So whenever I think of Metropolis, it doesn't have a classical soundtrack. It's got a 80s rock and pop soundtrack, which I still think is awesome. So, you know, as much as it's great to have the complete version to refer to, listening to Freddie Mercury along to this is still my go-to. Okay, my next film. When I say there can be only one, it can only make you think of one film. Highlander. Directed by Australian-born Russell Mulcahy, who at the time was best known as a director of music videos. First video on MTV was Video Killed the Radio Star. That was one of his. It tells the story of Highland warrior Connor MacLeod of the Clan MacLeod back in the 16th century, who dies in battle and comes back to life and finds out he's immortal. And over the centuries, we follow his life in flashback from the mid 80s when this came out, when it was set, and his life, his loves, the fights he gets into, because, as I say, there can be only one. They're immortal. You can't die except if you get your head cut off, and that leads to a lot of reasonably impressive sword fights, choreographed by Bob Anderson. Now, that's a name you'll know because he did the lightsaber battles for Star Wars. He was a double for Darth Vader. Christopher Lambert plays Connor MacLeod. So, yeah, it's a Frenchman playing a Scotsman. And then his teacher, Juan Sanchez Villalobos Ramirez, is played by Sean Connery. So it's a Greek working for the Spanish, played by a Scotsman, which leads to a rather odd moment where you've got the French actor explaining to the Scots actor what a haggis is, and the Scots actor going, "How disgusting!" It's a pumping soundtrack. Again, I mentioned Freddie Mercury before. All these songs are by Queen. So it's the album A Kind of Magic. It is a go-to film for me. I'm a big fan of well, it's a franchise. It wasn't the most successful film, in the box office and what have you, but because of home video and rental and places like this, it found its audience, which led to, well, we'll skip over Highlander 2 because that's just a whole rant. But it's a whole franchise. So it's 4 more films, 7 seasons of live action TV over 2 different shows, an animated this says kids cartoon, doesn't it? A show where you go around cutting people's heads off. Yeah, of course, that definitely says Saturday morning to me. An anime, comics, books, audio dramas. It is a whole massive world. It is due to be remade. Chad Stahelski of John Wick is set to direct Henry Cavill in the lead role. Normally, I'm not necessarily a supporter of remakes, but I think I'd like to see what the action will look like with the sort of the modern effects, the modern techniques. But yeah, you can always go back to this one as well. You must remember this. A kiss is still a kiss. A sigh is just a sigh. And that's about all we can get away with without having to pay for rights. My next movie is, yeah, again, a classic, Casablanca. Humphrey Bogart, Ingrid Bergman, wartime Morocco. Ingrid Bergman and her husband are trying to escape Nazi-occupied Europe, and they come. Well, everybody comes to Rick's bar. That's who Humphrey Bogart is playing. He's a bit of a he's a bit of a rogue. He's a bit of a cad. Romantic films aren't normally my jam, but yeah, this is just one of those ones that kind of got me. It's got so many moments in it that I think everybody kind of knows, or at least thinks they know. There are lines, there are moments. It's one of those movies that gets misquoted so many times, but you know, you can't not feel the feels on this one. Not to mention, it won three Oscars in the year it got nominated, so can't be all bad at all. Yeah, if you've never seen Casablanca, for whatever reason, if you're not into sort of black and white, or it's not normally your sort of thing, no, I'd recommend this to anybody. Okay, and finally, we're going to kind of come full circle, back to the early 90s, back to another director with their debut with a low budget. In this case, it's Robert Rodriguez's El Mariachi. We'll ignore this side of the disc because it's a twofer. So Robert Rodriguez made this film for $7,000. A goodly chunk of that he raised by selling his body to medical science. He would basically take part in drug trials. So, you know, they basically lock you in a hospital for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, and you know, make sure that, you know, these drugs did not have horrible side effects and things like that. And if you're really lucky, you might be the guy taking the placebo, so nothing happens to you. But he used the time, he used the money to make the film, and he used the time while in the hospital to write the film. It's as blue subtitled label, so it's Spanish language. It was made with the Latino straight to video market in mind, and the idea was, you know, we'll make this, we'll sell it, that'll give us the money to make more, and we'll carry on from that. But what actually happened was it ended up being his calling card to Hollywood, which is why he ended up being able to make the sequel, which is Desperado, with a bigger budget and a bigger star as the lead, and it's led on to, well, a massive career, because, you know, he's gone into, you know, family friendly movies like the Spy Kids franchise. He directed Sin City. He's one of the directors on The Mandalorian. He's been so successful off the back of, you know, this little action movie, and it is a proper action movie though. You got to see it to believe it. Worth bearing in mind. I mean, there was a time when I thought, yeah, I could be a filmmaker, and everything I've learnt about filmmaking comes from this very edition of the DVD. You know, his director's commentary and the 10-minute film school basically explain everything about how he managed to make $7,000 look far more expensive than it actually is. I mean, you know, little tricks like I've got a gun that can fire a blank, and it's a machine gun, but it can only fire one bullet. So what we do is we fire the one bullet, and then we dupe that multiple times to make it look like it's going bada 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 bada. Yeah, brilliant trick. Very, very cheap. Yeah, if you think you can make a film, then you need to watch this, and you also need to read his book, because his production diaries, Rebel Without a Crew, tells the whole story of how he made this movie, and you know, including his time being pumped full of drugs and you know, raising his money. It's a fantastic film. Everybody should watch El Mariachi.